Hitler's SS as a model. Undercover videos reveal plans of AFD-affiliated influencers. So there's this guy. His name is Eric Ahrens. Ahrens. I don't know how to pronounce that. This guy is connected with the AFD. He's connected with the Identitarian Party. I think he has some ties to the Austrian Freedom Party. And he is a hardcore believer in, you guessed it, eugenics, everyone. Is it really that surprising? And so you have all these conservatives in America who say things like, well, they're just fighting, those nationalists, they're fighting for their people, they're fighting for freedom. And I'm here to tell you that they ain't fighting for no people, and they ain't fighting for no freedom. They are fighting for despotism, tyranny, and social Darwinist horror. That's what they're fighting for. And I've been saying this since 2016, and I'll keep saying it. And people will continue to see that this assessment is correct. These people are part of the forces of darkness. They want Darwinism. They want eugenics. They want Nazism. I don't know. Like, if I see German nationalism and they're talking about genes, and I'm just like, okay, this is the Third Reich 2.0, Fourth Reich, this is Nazism 2.0, it's the same bullshit, here we go, same bullshit, different millennium, okay? It's the same thing with Japan. If I hear Japanese people talking about nationalism and let's bring back emperor worship and all this shit, I'm like, okay, here we go, bring back the kamikazes. All right. But I'm not going to read all of this to you. I'll just read to you guys some of the basic stuff here. But it says here that when Eric Ahrens declared that he wanted to be Germany's next leader. So this Eric Ahrens guy, okay, he's a Nazi, and he wants to be the Führer of Germany. Yep, he wants to be the Führer. This is German nationalism. I keep trying to tell you people that, like, I don't see a problem with German nationalism. It's just people who care about their country and they care about their people, and I don't really see what the issue is. And you have these people who make these sort of contrarian arguments with you, and they know exactly that they're full of shit. They know exactly what you're trying to say. They know, like, okay, they know this person is warning about a revival of Nazism. I know exactly what this person is trying to say. He's trying to warn people about a Nazi revival or the Third Reich coming back. Like, I totally get that. I understand exactly what this person is trying to say, but I'm going to be purposefully contrarian, and I'm going to say, I'm just asking questions, you know. If I hear anyone tell me, I think there's nothing wrong with this, it's all people who just want to protect their people, I automatically ignore them. I put them in bad faith. I don't want to talk to them. That's it, because it's very obvious as to what's going on here. And one thing I hate doing, my biggest pet peeve, is talking to people who want to argue over the obvious. They want to argue over the obvious. They want to argue with you over whether or not the sky is blue. And I think that if you argue with people over things that are obvious, then I think you are wasting your time. It is blatantly obvious that the recent phenomena of a German nationalist revival is extremely insidious, and it is very obvious just by researching these people that they have Nazi sympathies. For example, I did a video recently on my channel talking about some of the problems with the nationalist movements in Europe and all this stuff. And someone said, I think you're wrong. But they never said why I was wrong. It's like, if you think I'm wrong, that's totally legitimate. But you need to show me. You don't need to, but I would appreciate it if you were to really just show me where I was wrong. Not that hard. It's not a hard thing to ask for. Just show me where I'm wrong, and then we can move on. But you got these people who say, you're wrong. You're just so wrong, man. About what? Everything. It's all just wrong. Okay, well, show me why I'm wrong. I don't know. All right, not going to talk to you anymore. Scratch your name out. In fact, to argue with bad faith people is a sin in the Christian religion. Did you know that? It's a sin. It is a sin to argue over the obvious. Jesus said, do not throw your pearls to swine. Why are you throwing your pearls to swine? It's a sin. So this guy wants to be the next Führer. And let's read some more here. So it says here that when Erich Ahrens declared that he wanted to be Germany's next leader, he was sitting with a plate of fish soup in a fine seafood restaurant in Athens. My vision is to one day run for election in Germany, like Trump, explained the right-wing extremist influencer and former social media influencer for the AfD. His spoon resting on the soup. Okay, who cares about that? A populist movement centered around one person. That hasn't happened for 100 years. Hasn't happened for 100 years. Let's see. What happened? What happened almost 100 years ago? Hitler. The Chancellor. Death camps. And he added, I'll probably have to take on the role. However, Ahrens foresees problems. The German government, he predicts, will try to attack him. That is inevitable. So he will need an international network that continues to generate funds. This network must function like a spider. If one leg falls away, there are more. Ahrens briefly interrupts his lecture on this day in late November 2023. He is extremely annoyed by the hasty servants who keep walking past, and as he suspects, listening. This conversation is, of course, not intended for strangers' ears, etc., etc. Blah, 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 blah. So basically, they recorded him saying these things undercover. And they got him to think, the people who were recording him got him to think that one of them was a British investor interested in his cause. So, of course, yeah. Or I think it was just one guy who filmed him. So the guy that was filming him was actually an activist who wants to expose these people. But he masqueraded himself as a British investor who is very interested in your cause. Yes, yes, yes. Absolutely. This meeting is not the first of its kind, but rather just one of a whole series of secretly recorded conversations and video calls. The investigation, in which Der Standard and Der Spiegel were also involved, was led by the British Guardian, etc., etc. The videos provide deep insights into a world driven by pseudo-scientific eugenics and deeply racist views, eugenics, in which the SS serves as a role model, and the white race is supposed to determine the fate of at least Europe. There you go. There you go. That evening in Athens, apart from the alleged investor and Ahrens, only his British business partner is sitting at the table. Ahrens usually does most of the talking. That evening, he will say seriously that he is now completely committed to this ultimate battle, that he wants to go all in, and that he has split up with his girlfriend after a 6-year relationship. Oh, damn. So this is very interesting. Look what it says here. In fact, Ahrens is very active. He was a popular speaker at right-wing extremist meetings and promoted the AfD's EU candidate, Maximilian Krah, on social media. Now, Maximilian Krah is one of the leaders of the AfD. He's one of the major leaders of the AfD. And Maximilian Krah got into some hot water because he said, hey, not all the SS guys were bad. And people got pissed at him. Now, you could say, well, why are people getting pissed at him? He just said that not all of them were bad. He didn't say they were all good. He said some of them were okay. Yeah, you see, in a world where things like Nazism are still taboo, and you're conniving, you're not just going to say, oh, yes, Sieg Heil, Heil Hitler. You're going to say some very soft things, things that can be interpreted as harmless so that you can test the waters. That's how these things work. The entire article is a hit piece. Yes, it is. It's a hit piece. Depends on what you mean by hit piece. But yeah, it's an article that's exposing him. He has laid out his beliefs very clearly. And I'm very happy that you have people who investigate these people and expose them, because we should know where these people really stand and what their intentions are. If you're going to come around and say, oh, I love my people and I'm just fighting for my people, and then you have evil intentions, we want to know what those evil intentions are. So it says here that he was promoting this Maximilian Krah guy. Because of his success in modern propaganda, he was hailed as the AfD's TikTok strategist. He even compared himself to Steve Bannon. Arendt's tracks also lead to Vienna, of course. He registered the company Gendan Henstrom Flex Co. there in June. Now this is very interesting. So this guy registered his own company. According to the company register, the well-known right-wing extremist rented a house belonging to the Austrian Criminal Police Association. Now, the Austrian authorities say it looks like he registered the company illegally, because why else would he have as an address the Austrian Criminal Police Association? That could be true, but it could also be true that this guy is working with forces who are deep within the Austrian government. Just a thought. Let's remember, guys, let's not forget that Hitler at one point in time was an intelligence agent. He was actually an intelligence agent whose job it was to spy on the National Socialist Party. He entered the NSDAP. Not only did he spy on the NSDAP, but he actually liked what he saw, and he took over the organization. And the rest is history. Literally, the rest is history. So it's very, very strange. The address is given in the imprint of the app Blitzweisen, which summarizes the contents of right-wing books in a compact manner. An idea copied from apps like Blinkist, etc., etc. Dieter Sefon, head of the organized crime department at the Federal Criminal Police Office, is president of the Austrian Criminal Police Association. When asked by the Standard, he said that neither Arendt's nor his company appeared in the association's documents. Whether this was an illegal registration or whether the address was incorrectly given as the company headquarters is the subject of our further investigation, etc. So it is very interesting that the address for his registered company turns out to be a department of the Austrian authorities. This is also very interesting. He founded another company. All right, it's called Project Gegenuni, where you can listen to online courses from mostly AfD staff. And another guy who gives courses for Gegenuni is Martin Zellner, who I confronted and debated back in 2017. Very interesting. Very interesting. And that Zellner guy, he's an identitarian. He is he's probably the main figurehead for the identitarian movement in Austria. And I remember I brought up eugenics when I confronted him. And I said, well, do you believe in eugenics? And he said, well, I don't really believe in eugenics. No, I've never promoted eugenics. And I said, okay, well, would you ever speak for Ameren? And he said, I don't know. And like a month or two after I confronted this guy, or I think several months after I confronted this guy, if I remember correctly, his colleague, Mr. Martin, I think his name was Martin Leichwitz or Martin Lichtmet, I forgot his name. But one of his colleagues, whose name was also Martin, went to America and actually spoke with Ameren. And for those of you who don't know, Ameren is an American organization that strongly believes in eugenics. So these people believe in eugenics. They're Nazis. They're just evil. And yeah, very interesting. It says here that the Gegenuni was also intensively promoted by identitarian leader Martin Zellner, there you go, who appeared there as a speaker and seems to have gotten on very well with Ahrens for years. The two recorded podcast episodes together and took part in drill and training camps, so-called summer camps of the identitarians. So basically they go there, they LARP, they do boxing lessons and things like that. Ahrens' project was also promoted in Freilich magazine, the successor medium to Aula, which belongs to the Freedom Party, which won the largest number of votes in Austria's last election. So there you go. The Nazis in Austria are winning big, politically speaking. And it says here that the successor medium to Aula, which belongs to the Freedom Party academic associations in Styria and Salzburg, FPO leader Herbert Kickl described the medium as politically profound. So there you go. There's ties with the AfD. You see ties between these German eugenists and the Austrian Freedom Party. I mean, it's all there. And they're growing in numbers. That's the thing. The thing is that the train has been set. The nationalist phenomena has been unleashed. And it's growing. And I don't think it's going to stop. I think it's going to continue to grow. And it's going to become worse and worse. And they believe in eugenics. I mean, it's very clear. And you fast forward, just 2 days after the meeting in Potsdam, Ahrens sat in front of a... Oh, by the way, the meeting in Potsdam that they're referring to, this meeting entailed Martin Zellner meeting up with some AfD people. And the meeting was supposed to be secret, but some journalists went in there undercover, incognito, and they filmed the meeting. And what the expose revealed was that these people were in Potsdam to talk about doing mass deportations of non-Germans, even going so far as to plan to deport people who are technically German citizens. They want to deport actual German citizens because those German citizens are not really German. Tell me these people aren't Nazis. So after the meeting in Potsdam, Ahrens sat in front of a hidden camera in an Athens restaurant and raved about his elite organization. He didn't want normal people there, only the best, says Ahrens, an elite that he easily compares to the SS. The SS was Hitler's Schutzstaffel, which was responsible for organizing and guarding the concentration camps and the murder of millions of Jews. Ahrens, however, sounds a little different. He really starts to rave. The SS was the elite, he says, in contrast to the brown hordes of the SA, the brown shirts, for whom he clearly has little time. The SA were thugs, etc., etc. All right, so such plans had not yet been made public at the time. Ahrens was busy producing videos for social media for the AfD man Maximilian Krah. So there you go. There is the ties with the AfD. Because of his statement that not all members of the Waffen-SS were criminals, Krah was banned from appearing by his party. And of course, the AfD said, no, we're not with him, but they definitely have had ties with him. So then it talks about this eugenist organization called the Human Diversity Fund. It says here, the secretly recorded videos from 2023 show that Ahrens is serious about his plans. In them, Ahrens first talks about details such as the fact that his plan, it says her, but this is a mistranslation, that his plans and activities were apparently supported by an American with a 7-figure sum. So big American donor came along and donated $1 million, around $1 million to his organization. So he has gotten serious American money. The man Ahrens names as a donor of around 1.3 million euros is Andrew Conroe, who sold his dating startup Adult Friend Finder to the erotic company Penthouse for 500 million USD in 2007. According to Ahrens, Conroe provided these funds to a U.S. company called the Human Diversity Fund and also holds 15% of it himself. So the Human Diversity Fund is a modern-day pro-eugenics organization, much like the Pioneer Fund was back in the day, and they want eugenics. I mean, plain and simple. When asked, Conru said that he rejected racism and discrimination and had never met Ahrens. The project had originally supported independent research about what, but had obviously deviated from its basic idea. Did it? Because of the request, Conru broke off ties with the HDF, stopped its funding, and ordered an audit of its philanthropic activities. The hidden camera got in the way of Ahrens' plans. When asked, he said he already had enough means to achieve his goals, etc. Now, check this out. He admits that he's a fascist here. It says here, of course, all this should have been done secretly, as Ahrens himself emphasized at dinner in Athens. He did not want to attract the attention of Antifa and the Secret Service. So someone in the dinner said, "Oh, so you're like a militant Antifa or a right-wing Antifa?" And he says, "No, we're just fa. We're not Antifa. We're fa, meaning we're fascist, because Antifa is short for anti-fascist, openly fascist. They're just openly fascist. That's just the bottom line." Austria elects far-right parliamentary speaker. Ooh, that sounds creepy, guys. Austria, far-right. Ooh, we've seen this before. Austria elects far-right parliamentary speaker. Austrian parliamentarians elected Walter Rosenkranz of the FPO, the Freedom Party, to the second highest position. Now, let me just remind you guys that one of the leaders of the FPO is a guy by the name of Andreas Lubitz or something like that. I forgot his name, but he actually wants to reunite Germany and Austria. He literally wants to do the Anschluss. So it's pretty bad. All right. So this guy is now the leader of the Austrian parliament, Mr. Rosenkranz. And just to show you guys something on this article from the Jerusalem Post here. Look what it says here. Andreas Lubitz, I'm pretty certain that guy's name was. Austrian parliament elects first far-right speaker over left's objections. Austria's lower house of parliament on Thursday elected its first ever far-right speaker after his Freedom Party won last month's parliamentary election, and many conservatives backed him over the objections of the left and the Jewish community. Ooh, I wonder why the Jews are worried about this. I'm shocked that Israel isn't talking about this. I wonder why Israel is not talking about this. Israel's always talking about the Holocaust, never again. I mean, why aren't they talking about this? How come they're not talking about this? I'll tell you why they're not talking about this. Because the Israeli far-right loves this shit. That's the reason why. The Israeli far-right loves this stuff. They say, oh, Nazis have taken over Austria? That's great. They can kill the Arabs in Europe. So we can kill the Arabs here in the Holy Land. They'll kill the Arabs over there. There'll be less Arabs in the world. This is great. It's amazing. That's how these sick people think. So it says here, Walter Rosenkranz, a 62-year-old lawyer and veteran lawmaker for the Eurosceptic Russia-friendly Freedom Party, had recently served as Russia's parliament-appointed ombudsman. His supporters say his decades of public service qualify him for the country's second highest office. His critics point to his membership of a far-right fraternity, not surprised, and his praise for a prominent Nazi, arguing such a senior officer requires a more statesman-like figure. It is difficult for me to realize that you have thus added me to a long line of historic figures of this country, Rosenkranz said in a speech after 100 of the chamber's 183 lawmakers voted for him in by a secret ballot. Rosenkranz wrote a contribution for a book about members of right-wing fraternities like his who had made significant contributions to Austria. One of those he mentioned was Johann Steitsch, who, as chief prosecutor in Vienna under the Nazis, was responsible for the execution of dozens of resistance fighters. Oh my God, guys. So basically, you have Nazis that are back in the government, and they're in Austria where Hitler was born. So none of this shit surprises me at all. I'm not surprised at all by any of this stuff. Who would have known that history repeats itself? You know, that's the old maxim that they kept telling us when we were young. Yeah, we're all old now. Oh my God, history repeats itself. History does repeat itself, absolutely, but no one gives a shit. That's the thing. Those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. Well, plenty of these old geezers read history and they're still repeating history. So that's a bunch of bullshit. The reality is that people do learn history, but they don't care. And one thing that you learn from history is that people don't give a shit about history. And that's why it repeats. Or you can just go back to that verse in the book of Ecclesiastes, which says that there's nothing new under the sun and everything that has happened will happen again. And that's in the Bible. And yet Poland is getting cozy with Germany. Oh, I know why. Because, you see, there's a whole thing going on in Europe, which is basically just, it's basically harlotry. Poland is getting nice with Germany because Poland wants to make a big European military so they can defeat the Russians. And that's why Poland right now is the biggest defense spender in Europe. They're building up their military, making it really big and powerful. And they want to be the leading militarist nation of Europe. We've seen this before, sort of. Poland was kind of warm with Hitler in the beginning because Poland wanted a nice slice of that action from Czechoslovakia. And Poland, in the end, ended up with millions of dead bodies within its own borders. Bodies of people who were murdered by the Germans and their friends, especially the Ukrainians. So that was it. And you see Poland today talking about, oh, let's work with the Germans, let's get the military big and strong, and let's get a pan-European military thing going for us. And, well, who's going to lead this pan-European military? It's not going to be you, Mr. Slav. It's going to be the Germanian. He's going to run everything. And then you're going to have another Reich. And plus, I think Poland wants to take a chunk of Ukraine. I know there's Polish people out there who say that I'm wrong and I don't know what I'm talking about and all this stuff, but one thing I know about Eastern people is it doesn't matter if they're from the Middle East or if they're from Eastern Europe or if they're from the Far East. One thing I've known about them is they don't forget a damn thing. You tell a Polish guy about some battle that happened in 1920 something, he'll give you every freaking detail. He'll tell you about the one little mouse that crossed the street before the battle commenced. All right, they tell you everything. You know, in 1920 something, my grandfather came to this one land. Eastern people don't forget anything. And Poland used to control Lvov. Poland used to control Galicia. There's whole swaths of territory in Ukraine that were once under Poland. So, I mean, you don't think Poland would like that land back? I think they would. Lvov has very deep Polish roots. And historically, it was part of Poland. I mean, so my guess is that the Poles are... And again, I can't really prove this, but this is what the Russians will tell you. And I think they're right. And I think there are also Polish people who say this as well. But I think that Poland's hope is that things will get so bad in Ukraine that they can just say, okay, we need to protect our borders from Russian soldiers who may try to cross into Poland or whatever. And so we're going to put troops in Western Ukraine. We're going to station troops there. This is just sort of a NATO operation, yada, yada, yada. And then before you know it, Poland's going to say, hey, you know, we built a bunch of houses here. Got all these Polish soldiers living here with their wives and kids. It's sort of Poland now. It's like de facto Poland now. Blah, 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 blah. So there's that. And the thing about Poland is that there are numerous... Sorry. The thing about Ukraine is that there are numerous countries that have territorial claims in parts of Ukraine. So Romania has a territorial claim in Ukraine. Hungary has a territorial claim. Poland has historical roots in Ukraine. And my guess is that these countries, they're all sort of hoping that maybe they can take a little chunk here and there. And who knows? Will we see that ever happen? Who knows? But it is interesting to see. Or they'll deny the obvious. Everyone evil denies the obvious, that's correct. And part of denying the obvious is to downplay obvious history. Here we go. Everyone's arguing with this guy. I guess I'm I'm going to read this guy's comment now. I know. I never wanted to do it. I'm breaking my own rule here, everybody. I guess I'm a eugenist. I am forced to navigate life with a social disability my father has, which means if I have kids, which I won't, they will suffer from it. Wow. Okay. Who cares? Nobody's talking about that. No one is talking about your situation. This is the problem with talking about in serious issues like, I don't know, the revival of Nazism, is I will bring up something. I will say, look, these people believe in eugenics and they're Nazis. The Nazis believed in eugenics. Now, what did they do with eugenics? Did they say, in my individual life, I'm not going to have kids because I don't want to perpetuate said genes which may lead to a child suffering in some way. That's not what they said. They said, we're going to build camps. They said, we're going to put people in camps. They said, we're going to do experiments on people. They said that we're going to euthanize and murder people because they have certain disabilities. That's what we're talking about. You bringing up some bullshit that no one's bringing up. And that's the thing with talking about these people. People always bring up bullshit that comes from their own personal grievance or their own personal experiences that have absolute fuck all to do with the topic at hand. This is why I don't go to Bible studies. Because I know if I go to a Bible study, I'll say, well, if you read this verse in the Bible, it clearly means this. And then you know damn well that some guy in the house is going to say, well, when I read this verse, it makes me feel this way. And I once felt the presence of God when I was in a ski resort in California. Or, sorry, not California. In Nevada somewhere. Okay. Who gives a shit? Like, it's like we're in a meeting, right? And we're saying, hey, listen, we're pro-life activists. Let's get away. Let's pass pamphlets out. Let's try to convince people that abortion is murder. We'll go to abortion clinics. We'll protest abortion clinics, blah, blah, blah. And some guy's like, what about the homeless? Well, we're not talking about the homeless. Well, my mom almost died because of a bad pregnancy, and they had to end the pregnancy because she was like 5 minutes close to death. And okay, no one's talking about that. People do this all the time. This is what it's just hilarious to me. But here we go. Oh, I will not. I will not go to any Bible studies. I just won't, because I'll just say, yeah, the Bible just means this, guys. Bible study. Yeah, I went to a Bible study years ago, and the verse that was being discussed was Abraham being called by God to leave Canaan. To leave Mesopotamia and then go into Canaan. And I said, and they're like, Theodore, what do you think this means? And this is a Protestant Bible study, so everything is just, what do you think it means? Everything is personal, everything is individualized. And I said, well, Mesopotamia was pagan. Abraham was a man who sought after God, and so God went to him and said, leave this land, it's heathen, and you need to go to Canaan and start a new world, a new life. Because the Mesopotamians aren't going to listen to you. They actually will try to murder you if you tell them not to participate in paganism any longer. And I just gave the real meaning of the verse. I mean, yeah, I gave the real meaning. That's what the story of Abraham is. And the other answers, I remember hearing them, were just retarded. One guy said, well, I feel that there was a presence of God that was felt in Canaan, And I know this experience. I've had this experience myself. And when I went to the mountains of Yosemite many years ago, I felt the presence of God around me, surrounding me. And I just felt that presence. And all the other answers were like this. It was just insanely retarded. And I can't. Yeah, everyone's telling their own personal experiences, and it's just craziness. Officially, when it comes to China, Russia and China settled their land claims, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's awesome. Well, we're kind of in a Bible study, aren't we? And it's sort of in a Bible study, right? But this is more like a theology study, so I shouldn't call it a Bible study. It's like, yes, abortion is evil, and 99% of the times when women get abortions, it has nothing to do with saving their own lives. It has nothing to do with the life of the mother. It's just they don't want the kid. That's it. The kid is not wanted. They don't give a shit. They want to do a degree or whatever, so they have an abortion. That's almost every abortion case is this way. So then we say, hey, that's wrong. We're talking about 99% of the cases of abortion. We're saying, yeah, that's morally wrong. You can't just terminate a life because you don't feel like taking care of the child. And then some guy will come over and say, well, the life of the mother. Well, if a woman is about to die, she's pregnant, I can understand. I can understand ending the pregnancy to save the life of the mother. I can understand that. It's very tragic, but I can understand that. But they make that circumstance the whole thing that justifies abortion for them. Like, well, okay, fine. And if you tell them this, they will always disagree with you. Tell them, okay, we're going to allow abortion only in the case of the mother only in the case where the mother is about to die. Fine, we'll allow abortion. Are you happy? No. Okay, so why can't you just say you're for abortion in every single circumstance? Why do you have to use that argument? Oh, I see. You want to cloud our vision, and you want to gaslight, and you want to manipulate, and you want to try to pull at people's heartstrings to convince them that all abortion is great. Why can't you just say that you want abortion for all cases? Why do you have to use that circumstance? Because that's how you get into the door. It's the same thing with eugenics. You have these people who say, well, I have a disability and I'm not going to have kids. And okay, no one's talking about you. What you do with your own personal life, if you don't want to have kids, that's your own decision. No one's telling you anything. No one's forcing you to have kids. No one's talking about that anyway. Literally talking about Nazi death camps. We're basing it on history. We're using historicity. We're using the historical records. We're using what the history books tell us. We're looking at present day situations. We're looking at the present in light of the past. We're doing all these things. We're not talking about any of that stuff. But people always do this bullshit.